do you miss anything now that you got that PhD, right? For me, I'm still the dummy in every room because I have no real education beyond high school, right?
Well,
So I still walk in every meeting I'm in, and I know I'm the dumbest in the room academically, right? But I warn people of that, and I ask dumb questions that give me answers that hopefully make me a little smarter. And again, so what I do find is I have friends that are really highly educated, and sometimes they think they know more than they know, and they don't know what they don't know, right? And so I think it comes as a deficit sometimes when somebody is educated so well at a young age, and they've spent their life in labor educating, right, to be so doggone smart in the things that they've learned so much about. Sometimes they don't ever, they get into a real life situation of leadership, and they're embarrassed to ask a dumb question, right, or a question they think is dumb. And so did you lose some of that but with that PhD, or did you continue to say, I'm still going to be that the inquisitive, objective mind that doesn't know it all?
My PhD was tough. It was really hard. Honestly, it took me a good year to get into it. I was just getting into the groove of it when Google started recruiting. Actually, I was in lockdown with my parents in Seattle during this COVID outbreak. I had been in the States to speak at a conference, got stuck. I live in Spain now. Spain closed its borders, and I was home with my parents for a long time. And my dad, literally, we were talking about, he's seen me do press interviews and consulting my clients and all this like high level stuff. And he literally, one night we were talking about school, and I have a sister who's just finishing her undergrad and is thinking about a master's. And my dad turns to me and he's like, I really wish you'd finished your PhD. And he didn't mean to hurt my feelings, but it really hurt my feelings because I thought like, he thinks my career was a mistake. And that's not what he meant by it at all. I think it was just like that value for him. It's another level of accomplishment of like his sacrifice, taking those big risks is, you have a paper to show for it. And I just immediately I was like, do you know if I'd stayed in my PhD, like nobody would have read what I wrote, like 2 people. Now I've presented my ideas to heads of state and celebrities, like the impact is immeasurable of what we've done. But I think his point was that of like, the value of learning for learning is something that's so prized in my family.
Absolutely.
So I want to preserve that. And I want to live in that space where you're constantly curious and hungry and you don't think all your ideas are good. So to answer your question, it's a balance of the two. I think you have to have a level of like confidence in order to get to that point of humility where you can invite that level of criticism. Jeff Bezos, Jeff and Eric, my 2 major CEOs that I've worked for, both went to Princeton and both were exceptionally bright from like birth. They're just gifted people. Eric went to Princeton very young. He graduated from high school very early. He doesn't really talk about that much, but he was very young in this academic environment where while he was the smartest kid in the class, he wasn't necessarily like invited to anything because he was a kid. So they both came from these, while they were exceptionally bright, Jeff grew up on a farm in his grandpa's ranch in Texas. Eric had to be scrappy from a very young age to fit in, and they both never lost that. They just always felt like they had to like claw their way into respect and fitting in and being in with the cool kids. And that's this beautiful side of them is like, they know they're exceptionally bright. Like for example, Eric, while he was CEO at Google, or even before Google, when he realized his life was going to be a CEO and he was going to live on a plane, he decided that if he was going to live his life on a plane, he wanted to do the fun part, which is fly it. So he became a fully certified commercial air pilot so he could fly his own jet. That him being able to do as a hobby what other people spend their entire life dedicated to is nobody else can do that. That's just that's the level of like quickness. Like he can just, he has to do all the regular certifications that professional pilots do, and he will just cram massive amounts of information before he does each of those recertifications. So awesome. There are people who live comfortably in that space, and there's something just so, I'm so grateful. The rest of my life has changed for witnessing people who surround themselves with people. Not only do they expect people to be exceptionally bright, they expect them to push back. Jeff had at Amazon, he had a role then called the shadow. It has a more official name now that I don't remember. And the shadow position he created because it is lonely at the top. Nobody knows everything, and he needed a peer to bounce ideas off of. He wanted that, academic style peer review. So my first year at Amazon, Jeff's shadow was Andy Jassy. Andy Jassy now is the CEO of, oh gosh, I just forgot, flew out of my brain what it's called. I want to say A9, but that's their search company out of, what is it called? Oh, Amazon Web Services. So Andy Jassy is now the CEO of AWS, Amazon Web Services, which is the platform upon which all startups are built now. It changed the world. But when Andy came in, he knew nothing. He was just a young, promising, really exceptionally bright person that Jeff wanted to train. He wanted to train him to think like he did, ask the questions he would ask, like what he likes, hate what he hates. And he basically cloned himself in the body of Andy Jassy. And so Andy then went on to do greatness. Now that takes a very humble person, because Andy's job description was to push back on Jeff, to read everything that he read, sit in every meeting, and to be there to be the devil's advocate, to push him. Have we thought about that enough? Should we analyze this? Maybe we should pay attention to that guy. And Eric constantly did that. I mean, he refused to be with people who told him all of his ideas were good and all his jokes were funny.